Welcome to the second episode of the third series of the Tessa Talks To podcast. In this series, I am exploring what music means to musical couples. Today, I am chatting with Natalie and Ashok Klouda. Natalie is a violinist and composer. Ashok is a cellist, and they are both co-founders and directors of the upcoming Highgate International Chamber Music Festival. As well as all of this, they are hands-on parents to 5-year-old Enzo and 2-year-old Anushka. So how do they do it all? So Natalie and Ashok, it's lovely to be in your house. Thank you for having me here this morning over coffee and croissants. So we're here in your practice room stroke office sort of work. Is this where all the work comes from, the hub of the house?
Yeah, I think so. It's almost like a safe room.
You shut the door and it's
because,
sort of quiet.
Yeah, we try to keep this room for work, and the rest of the house is very much taken over with toys and
as you can see,
chaos.
Sometimes the
kids' chaos.
Lego dragons infiltrate, as you can see on the desk. But
yeah, a little bit of colour.
Yeah, they've been safely stored here today by our 5-year-old because he did not want them to be destroyed during the day.
Oh,
so you put them in the safe room.
In the safe room.
Oh, sweet. So tell me where your story began. How did you meet each other?
We met on the Lake District Summer Music course a long time ago.
Back in 2003.
Yeah. Ashok offered me some crisps, which normally would have been amazing because those are my favourite things, and I said no.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, no, actually.
You rejected his advances.
I did, yeah.
From the,
I was like, no,
playing hard
I'm
to
fine,
get
thanks. And I was working very hard that week, and I was very focused, and so only on the very last night we finally chatted.
Yeah, after maybe before, but I tried to impress Natalie with my moonwalking.
The moonwalking, a hidden talent.
And that helped initiate more discussion.
Yeah, we were all quite into Michael Jackson moonwalking.
Was that after a few drinks? Or do you want to
Maybe.
demonstrate moonwalking? Did you play together when you met quite soon, or how did your sort of collaborations begin?
Well, when we were studying, we were both quite focused on our studies, and I think it worked really well for us that we were in different cities, because basically we just worked really hard for 2 weeks, and then there'd be one weekend out of 2 weeks that one of us would go down or come up or whatever and see each other. Yeah. So it was a kind of work really hard and then have a bit of relaxed time.
For a day and a half.
Yeah, so it worked really well for us because of that kind of focus we had for our music, and that carried on for quite a long time, until Ashok went to Bern to study in Switzerland, and then I came down to London, which seems odd, but we kind of, I always felt really strongly that we should fulfill what we wanted to do and not sort of tie ourselves together for any reason. If it's going to work, it's going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
And we'd both been so musically obsessed from such young ages. I left home sort of, to go to Haydn school when I was 8. So I was quite, I'd invested already a lot. Somehow you've kind of been thinking about music sort of your whole life.
Yeah.
So I think that was really important to us. We've always known how important music is individually.
And you have that shared understanding of allowing each other space and understanding the importance of that devotion to music and
we
really what you sacrifice.
But it is hard, these days to enable each other to have enough space, because when you need to know where someone's shoe is because you've got to get them off to school, it's a bit tricky to kind of have this the kind of that golden you'd never go into each other's practice room when you're working, you just never would do that, but now of course you have to just learn to be more flexible.
And have you played a lot together as a violin and cello duo?
Back when we were sort of completing our studies, or at the time of being junior fellows, I can't remember, I was doing that at the Guildhall Academy, and Natalie was doing that at the Royal Northern. We were playing together sometimes. We were doing some duo concerts, Cloud Duo, we called it, and just the sort of repertoire like the Kodály Duo Sonata, Mozart duos, other bits and bobs, but it's not a huge repertoire for violin and cello, and so we were doing that a little bit, but we were mostly each focused on our quartets at that time. We were in 2 sort of rival quartets, I guess you could say. And it was quite extreme, really, because we both ended up in Melbourne at one point, competing against each other in the sort of final rounds of the Melbourne International String Quartet competition.
Wow, but that added a new dynamic to your relationship.
Yeah, we arrived and we heard that the press wanted to do an article about the rivalry between the fact that because we were quite recently married, and they thought this was hilarious and really exciting. So they got us to sort of pose with our bows, like in a kind of fencing fighting
duel
way. Exactly. Luckily neither of us won, so
Yeah.
it's okay.
Thank goodness.
But even with the intensity of those rehearsals and your sort of individual quartets, the worlds that you were working in, that must have been... How did you then come together? Did you keep it totally separate? Did you talk about it? Or when you're together, are you able to switch off from work and actually enjoy doing other things?
It was a very intense time. I think the music side of things and just being immersed in what you want to create, I think that always just overrides sort of anything else most of the time. So we did talk about we did obviously like talk as friends, as you would about your daily life, what's happened, or things that are going on. But I think we were just really focused on kind of just playing, really. I mean, we were both in and out all the time.
Very
at
hard
that
to
point.
switch off. Very hard to switch off when you're in a quartet and it's full on, and you're if you're not rehearsing, you're preparing for your rehearsal or concert or whatever. And we were both doing the same sorts of things, just in different places at different times. So yeah, that was a bit too much, really, I think, and we both really enjoyed our experiences. But then, actually, within about a year of each other, I think we both had decided that we needed to leave our groups and take on some new challenges.
Yeah.
And did that then lead to you co-founding the Highgate International Chamber Festival? Was that at that point?
It did, actually. It left some time, and I think as well...
the realisation that so many other groups, especially in this country, I think, there are so many great young groups, but to keep them going from a financial perspective past a certain stage, there's so many music clubs up and down the country, but they, a lot of them top out at a fee which is very low. And so if people
actually at that point it was the recession, so I think lots of music clubs actually stopped working as well. They couldn't keep going. But
there just weren't the opportunities to perform and to live as musicians.
Yeah, I think especially when you've got 4 people each trying to make a living and trying to make a career and a name for themselves as well, so often really, really, really good groups end up sort of coming apart because they're being just pulled in different directions.
Or moving to the States.
Or moving, yeah.
If you have that opportunity.
Absolutely. And so we were aware that there were so many fantastic musicians around who had a great deal of chamber music experience and could play at an extremely high level and were, most importantly, really nice people. So that was one of the key factors with the founding of the
I think I also really
festival.
missed my friends from school. I'd spent a lot of time, away from my friends at Union School, and in leaving my quartet and things, I kind of wanted to sort of get back in touch with people more and kind of because we
Connect.
have that connection.
8 years
somehow.
at the Union School is such a focused, it's quite a closed world. Less so perhaps now, but at the time it's hugely intense, and the hours and hours of practice you're doing both independently and by yourself, but with your friends. Yeah, that's a really unique experience.
Recently, we had a little mini sort of reunion, a few of us, and when someone suddenly sort of went family hug, and then and it did, there's such a sort of strong connection somehow.
You shared so much at such volatile ages as well.
Essentially,
really.
you have a lot of brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially, it's a very close sort of relationship, and there's a lot of love, and and I kind of feel like it was our fellow founder of the festival is a pianist who I was at school with, Irina Botan. And so yeah, I think life kind of threw us together a little bit, and then we got talking, and then we were sort of doing some painting, and she was helping me and things, and we kind of shook on it that we would do a festival. We'd go for it, and just
the three of you together.
The three of us, decided. Actually, sort of got roped in.
Okay.
I just said, but who's going to do all the work?
Yes, that's my next question. How do you define your roles, and who makes the decisions between? I mean, founding a festival is totally different to performing together and making music together. Something that you are both hugely focused on and understand each other's sort of motivations, but then to suddenly move into essentially management and production and everything else that it involves, how you must have really discovered new sides of each other in a way, and learned a lot in how to sort of lots of smiles appearing. Yeah, how did that work?
Well,
or not.
At the beginning it became very clear that Ashok was far more skilled at any kind of computer work than we were, and we did have some heated debates because we very quickly put together the first festival that we did. It was sort of 2 months, and Ashok was at the computer, and we were trying to get even some designs together, to create these things. It was all very much homemade, and I remember Ashok with the ruler at the screen, at the monitor screen, trying to work out how to, and we were kind of no, more like this, no, more that way, more that way, and then poor Ashok was he was.
So that was the level of my skill, which was still apparently far greater than Irina and Natalie's skill.
I think she acknowledges it. That's the good style, isn't it? To know each other's strengths.
So no, it was just sort of we just had to push through, didn't we?
We did. We pushed through, and the joy of seeing. I remember the first moment when we saw a group of people that we put together. There wasn't us. We were not included, and we were standing, we were watching, and you just kind of well up, because you kind of see this magic on stage, and you sort of feel just so happy that you've in some way enabled that to happen. And all those moments of going and speaking to people, and you don't feel that you necessarily feel so confident to go and sort of talk to people and say, we're going to do this, and we really would love to use your venue, and would that be okay? All those moments are things that you've got to push yourself that bit further, because you're not just in a practice room, and you're not doing concerts that are organised. It's completely different.
Comfort zone, yeah.
But all of that was worth it, and so then I think that was instilled, that magic side of things, and the camaraderie, and the kind of, so.
And the knowing the quality of the musicianship and the level of music that your community here in Highgate were going to be attending and receiving.
And in terms of sort of our roles or decision making, I mean, I think the three of us, we knew that we shared very similar musical values. And so I think from a musical perspective, it's always been very easy to agree on things in terms of the program, or which artists are going to play well with which other artists, in terms of the dynamic, and just how the sort of atmosphere that it's going to create. Because there's so many amazing players, but not all of them are going to work well with each other. So yeah, we're pretty I think on the same wavelength about that, and we all just decide that together.
How do you keep your relationship from becoming functional?
I think we've had a few quite key moments, when of course things can get too much. You feel like you're a bit lost in some way. You don't remember the last time you kind of laughed, or those things that are just so important. And you have to make sure that there are moments where there's nothing happening, where you can have those conversations, where you just reassess what's going on. And we had a few times when we've kind of when you've had to sort of say, well, what is the thing that the essence of you, what is your essence, what are each of our essence, why were we together in the first place, and kind of try to remember those things. Like,
and what's the point of the festival if it's not going to bring joy?
Yeah, exactly. To you as well as everybody around you.
Exactly, and knowing that there's hard graft, but you have to remember throughout that you need those moments. You have to, every week you have to have those moments where you take that moment to laugh and something and sort of, we'd have sort of a one date every 6 months, at some times, when you have a young child or something, but you had such a nice time on that one date, and it kind of carries you. It can carry you through for quite a long time.
But and you've shared so much and grown up so much together over how many years now? 12.
16.
16 years.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean that's
It's quite a
incredible.
long time.
Do you remember when you first met? What did bring you together? Do you think, Ashok, perhaps first?
Well, I don't know. She didn't accept my offer of crisps, and I like a challenge.
I remember very clearly that we had some orchestral. We were doing some orchestral sort of string orchestra, I think, on the course, and Ashok. Everyone was very diligent. They're playing beautifully, and I remember they had named our orchestra that I happened to be in with Ashok was Menuhin Orchestra or something, and then Ashok started doing really ridiculous fingerings, and I clocked it straight away because I was kind of used to people doing that kind of
Messing around, essentially.
messing around, and I just thought it was just so nice to see because it was very refreshing because I'd been used to that.
Finding the fun
Menuhin
within
school.
And this was all aimed at Natalie. I couldn't stop looking at her. I have to admit that.
And you played together as well.
Well, each year it's become a bit of a tradition now at our festival that we play a Haydn piano trio because there are so many and they're so wonderful, and we all think that, well, at least
With
I think
quartets.
with
They're-
quartets, he's the sort of father of chamber music, really, and now that we've got kids as well, it's like one of those things that we can still do because it doesn't require too much rehearsal time. And each year we play a Haydn piano trio as a sort of I don't know, just sort of
Galvanising, reconnecting.
Yeah, we feel that Haydn's very important. So we decided we'd do it before leading, sort of a month before the festive season sort of thing. So it's like the first mulled wine and mince pie sort of idea. So that's always when you come to the festival, there's that smell of mulled wine, which at the beginning always smells so nice. By the end of the week, we're like, okay, we can wait now for another year. That's fine.
So this is a clip of us playing Haydn's piano trio number 37 in D minor.
So as well as performing other people's compositions, Ashok, you've commissioned Nats to write a series of 6 miniatures for Baroque cello, each one paired to a specific Bach suite.
Yes, that's right. There was a series of concerts in Conway Hall that I was planning on doing with every Bach cello suite in. There were half-an-hour concerts, and there was a little bit of space in each for something else. And these concerts were going to be on Baroque cello. So I borrowed a really, really nice Baroque cello from the Academy, Royal Academy of Music in London. Thank you very much to them. And we thought that actually there's so much contemporary music for modern cello, for solo cello, but there wasn't much that we knew of, at least, for Baroque cello. Because it is sort of a different instrument. I mean, it has a very different response and different sound, the uncovered gut strings. And so, Natalie thought it'd be a really cool idea if we could pair little sort of miniature 2 minutes, 3 minutes works, and with each one of the suites, and take something in terms of the character, even the character of one movement or a specific part of one movement, and make a sort of pairing to that.
So I asked Ashok to sort of almost circle the bits that he loved in each individual suite. So I got a feel for the moments that he loved. And then I was a bit stumped because I kind of thought, these are going to be paired with Bach, that's a little intimidating, especially harmonically, well, every way, but harmonically as well. And I thought, what am I going to do? How am I going to get this to work? And then suddenly I realised that, of course, Ashok, he's half Indian. And I had, I was quite influenced by Indian classical music at the Haydn School, because of course the Haydn link with Ravi Shankar and everything, and so we had people come to school and they showed us about the incredibly complicated Indian classical sort of tradition, and so I always had a huge respect for that. And I also thought that the delicacy of the phrasing of those musical melodies were so in keeping, or lend themselves so well to the delicacy of Baroque style of playing. And so I suddenly realised that was what I needed to do. Ashok's love of Bach and Ashok's love of Baroque music linked with his heritage of Indian classical. I just thought that would be such an interesting idea to put those things somehow, to sort of put those together and to have those as my influence.
It was such a creative process, and actually that layer was because of your relationship as a couple, and an outside composer would not necessarily have thought of it in that way and brought such a nuance and such a personal depth to it.
Yeah, and there's an ironic thing is I was really struggling to sort of get started with that conversation. I was thinking,
maybe because you're too close to it.
That's the thing, and I went out, which I hadn't done much because we had really really young children, and I went out to have for a coffee with a friend, and it was in our chat having that little bit of space where suddenly, of course, it made sense.
We're going to premiere all 6 of them together in our 2019 festival in Highgate.
Wow, I look forward to coming to that. Is there something we can hear before that, perhaps? On this?
Sure. We have a recording of the first piece, actually based on the first cello suite.
Okay. Well, let's listen to that now. That sounds so inspiring.
It's so nice having a piece that you feel is tailored to you, as in Natalie knows the things that maybe I do reasonably well and the things I don't do so well.
Yeah.
These sort of things that, as a performer, you probably find a way around so the audience doesn't know your weaknesses, technical weaknesses perhaps, or things that you just find a bit difficult. And you hope that no one ever finds out about it, but of course, your husband or wife,
closest to you,
they're going to know.
Can't escape.
Because they'll hear you, cursing in the practice room.
But all these people in the days gone by, they always used to write and play, and of course they'd write things for themselves that they could do really well.
And have you written for yourself? Have you written a violin?
I wrote a piece called 3 Glimpses, which had lots of random things in it. So this is the third of the 3 glimpses for solo violin.
And who else has commissioned you, Natalie, as a composer?
Irina's piano trio, the Monte piano trio, they commissioned me to write a piece for them. Again, really fantastic, because when you know people well, it's so much fun to write for them. And also having the experience of knowing what an intense group is like, and you have these strong personalities, and the balance between those was already interesting. But the commission was to be writing something for a concert in the Schumann House in Bonn, and the concert was going to include Robert Schumann, Clara Schumann, and Brahms. And so they wanted another piece that would collaborate, which would go nicely with that new work. And so I was inspired by their three-way relationship, and I spoke to someone who'd read so many letters and lots of the letters that had not been translated into English, and so they really had a really amazing idea as to how they were together. And so that was just hugely inspiring to come up with the piece. And actually one of the really interesting and very inspiring things was that Clara and Robert had a diary which they shared. So one week one of them would write in it, and the next week the other one would write in it. So they never had to, they could always see the week from the other person's perspective, and I thought that was so incredible.
Yeah,
and so forward thinking. And like, you know, the times when you misunderstand each other for whatever reason, I just thought that was very inspiring. And they are amazing. I mean, 8 children doing everything they were doing. I mean, that's like the ultimate kind of, whatever we're doing is nothing compared to what they were doing.
Yeah, it's amazing that you're able to keep up composition, violin playing at the level that you are, and being a mother. It must be hard to juggle all three, but I guess you just find certain times for different focuses.
Yeah, it's very hard to be settled at any one time, because you always feel a pull to be doing something else, which is really annoying, because you really want, you need to be present, and you want to be present. Of course you do your best, but there is sometimes, the pull to be doing one of the other things that you kind of have been drawn to your whole life or whatever, it kind of is in there. And sometimes
Enzo and Anishka are so lucky to be brought up within this world of passion and hard work and understanding the discipline and the challenges that you face, but the discipline and the joy, essentially, that you get out of it together.
Yeah, I hope so. And then occasionally you get asked to do something like the CBBS prom, and you go, yeah, definitely going to do that. And then they come in and you see how much happiness they have because they've been included in that, and it's, and so then, yeah, there's a new hierarchy of all the things that you kind of aspire to do, anything children-wise, you kind of...
Zingzillas.
Yeah, you're like, I will be a hero!
And I think that everyone plays an instrument, which is nice. I mean, I think that, they've both got their little tiny violins.
Oh.
We're thinking of getting Anishka a cello for her birthday.
Yes.
Which she has expressed an interest in.
Oh, well. And thank you for sharing so much with us. When's the next opportunity that we can come and see you and hear you perform?
Well, I think the biggie is probably the festival in Highgate International Chamber Music Festival. It's happening this year from the 23rd of November until the 30th of November, and we're so lucky to be joined by some amazing people this year. We've got Lawrence Power, one of the greatest violists. He's coming to play. Sheku Kane Mason, who everyone I'm sure has heard of.
He's a star, isn't he?
He's a real star. And
he played the proms this year.
He did play at the proms, yeah. We've known him for quite a while, actually. His piano trio were on the education scheme of our festival a few years ago. And so, yeah, we've sort of got to know him really well over the years. And they're such a lovely family. We've got John Suchet coming to introduce one of the concerts.
Classic FM's finest.
FM, yeah. And by sheer coincidence, actually, we knew he was a Beethoven expert, and he's written a book on Beethoven. And in our festival this year is focusing on Beethoven in his 249th year.
That's what we have with our festival, because it's at the end of the year, so everyone's you'd never be sick of Beethoven, but it's always been...
It's a theme throughout next year.
Yeah, so we thought, why not? This is from now on, we'll always do the 249, or
Yeah, good idea.
But but it turns out in that concert we had also programmed Tchaikovsky's Souvenir de Florence, and he's also written a book on Tchaikovsky.
Yeah.
So he's going to introduce the Beethoven items and the Tchaikovsky, so that's great. Anyway, and sorry, there's too many people to mention by name, but there's just lots of wonderful chamber musicians coming to play together, and in formations that you won't hear anywhere else. So that's the sort of exciting thing about it.
Well, I really look forward to coming and hearing. Thank you,
Thank
Nat.
you
so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the second episode of the third series of the Tessa Talks To podcast, where I was chatting with Natalie and Ashok Klouda about what music means to them as a musical couple sharing their work and life space. Join me next month where I'll be meeting another musical couple to hear what music means to them.